Hi girls, we're going to keep on reading about the Velveteen Rabbit who has just become real because the boy said he was real. Here's the house that the boy lives in. You can see it's an olden day kind of house. It doesn't have tiles on the roof. Look, it has what's called thatching, which is like straw from the olden days. And it doesn't have brick walls. It has like white walls with wood. And it's got chimneys because they have fires to keep the house warm. And here's the little boy out in the garden blowing bubbles. He's got a watering can, lots of flowers. I can't see the rabbit. Can you see the rabbit? I can't see the rabbit. That was a wonderful summer. Near the house where the boy lived was a wood. And in the long June evenings, the boy liked to go there after tea to play. He took the Velveteen Rabbit with him, and before he wandered off to pick flowers or play among the trees, he always made the rabbit a little nest somewhere among the bracken, where he would be cosy. Because he was a kind-hearted boy, and he liked the rabbit to be comfortable. One evening, while the rabbit was lying there alone, watching the ants run to and fro between his paws, he saw two strange things creep out of the tall bracken near him. He must be in the garden here somewhere. They were rabbits like himself, but furry and brand new. They must have been very well made, for their seams didn't show at all, and they changed shape in a strange way when they moved. One minute they were long, the next minute they were long and thin, and the next minute they were fat and bunchy, instead of always staying the same like he did. Their feet padded softly on the ground, and they crept quite close to him, twitching their noses, while the rabbit stared hard to see which side of the clockwork stuck out, for he knew that people who jump generally have something that winds them up, but he couldn't see it. They were some kind of new toy altogether. They stared at him, and the little rabbit stared back, and all the time their noses were twitching. "Why don't you get up and play with us?" asked one of the rabbits. I don't feel like it," said the little rabbit, for he didn't want to explain that he didn't have any clockwork to make him work. Oh, look. They're real rabbits. They've come out of the bush to see him. With real fur and real whiskers and real legs. Not like him, not a toy. "Ho," said the furry rabbit. "It's as easy as anything." And he gave a big hop sideways and stood on his back legs. "I don't believe you can," he said. "I can," said the little rabbit. "I can jump higher than anything." He meant when the boy threw him, he could jump, but he didn't want to say that. "Can you hop on your hind legs?" asked the furry rabbit. Oh, that was a dreadful question, because the little Velveteen Rabbit didn't have any hind legs at all. The back of him was made in one piece, like a pincushion, and he sat still in the bracken, and he hoped that the other rabbits wouldn't notice him. "I don't want to," he said again. But the wild rabbits have very sharp eyes, and this one stretched out his neck and looked. "Oh, he hasn't got any hind legs," he called out. "Fancy a rabbit without hind legs!" And he began to laugh. "I have," cried the little rabbit. "I have got hind legs. I'm just sitting on them." "Then stretch them out and show them to me like this," said the wild rabbit. And he began to twirl about and dance till the little rabbit got quite dizzy. "I don't like dancing," he said. "I'd just rather sit still." But all the while he was longing to dance, for a funny new tickling feeling ran through him, and he felt he would give anything in the world to be able to jump like these rabbits could. The strange rabbit stopped dancing and came quite close. He came so close this time that his long whiskers brushed against the Velveteen Rabbit's ear, and then he wrinkled his nose and suddenly flattened his ears and jumped backwards. I think it must be this one, coming right close to his ear. And then he jumped backwards. "Oh, there's a dragonfly on," he said. "He doesn't smell right," he exclaimed. "He isn't a rabbit at all. He isn't real." "I am real," said the little rabbit. "I am real. The The boy said so, and he nearly began to cry. Just then there was a sound of footsteps, and the boy ran past near them, and with a stamp of white feet and a white flash of the tail, the two little rabbits disappeared. Come back and play with me," called the little rabbit. "Oh, do come back. I know I am real." But there was no answer. Only the little ants ran to and fro in the bracken where the two strange rabbits had been. The Velveteen Rabbit was all alone again. "Oh dear," he thought. "Why did they run away like that? Why couldn't they stop and talk to me?" For a long time he lay very still in the grass, watching the bracken and hoping that they would come back. But they never returned, and presently the sun sank low and the white moths began to flutter around, and the boy came back and picked him up and carried him home. That's the picture that's on the front of the book. Weeks passed and the little rabbit grew very old and shabby. But the boy loved him just as much. He loved him so hard that he loved all his whiskers off, and the pink lining in his ears turned grey, and the brown spots had faded from his skin, and he even began to lose his shape, and he scarcely looked like a rabbit any more, except the boy. To him he was always beautiful, and that was all that the real little rabbit cared about. He didn't mind how he looked to other people, because the nursery magic had made him real. And when you are real, shabbiness doesn't matter. And then one day, the boy got sick. His face got very flushed, which means red, and he talked in his sleep, and his little body was so hot that it burned the little rabbit when he held him so close. Strange people came and went in the nursery, and the light burned all night, and through it all the little Velveteen Rabbit lay there hidden from sight under the bedclothes. He never stirred, for he was afraid that if they found him, someone might take him away, and he knew the boy needed him. It was a long time, for the boy was very sick and too sick to play, and the little rabbit found it very dull with nothing to do all day. But he snuggled down patiently and looked forward to the time when the boy would be well again, and they would go out in the garden amongst the flowers and the butterflies and play splendid games. All sorts of delightful things he planned while the boy lay asleep. He crept up close to the pillow and whispered them in his ear, and presently the fever turned and the boy started to get better. He was able to sit up in bed, and he looked at the picture books while the rabbit cuddled close to his side. And one day they let him get up and get dressed. So in the old days there wasn't medicine, so when you had a fever you had to just stay in bed. Well, here's the little rabbit in the blankets, and look, there's a candle torch which has got the oil at the bottom burning. This looks like an old bottle of medicine, olden day medicine. And here's Nanny changing the beds, and here's the little boy outside on the veranda in the sunshine, and oh, there's a pussycat. It was a bright sunny morning, and the window stood wide open. They had carried the little boy out onto the balcony and wrapped him in a shawl, and the little rabbit lay tangled up amongst the bedclothes, thinking. There he is. Thinking. The little boy was going to the seaside tomorrow. Everything was arranged, and now it only remained to carry the doctor's orders. They talked about it all, while the little rabbit lay under the bedclothes, with just his head peeping out and listening. The room was to be disinfected, and all the books and all the toys that the boy had played with in the bed have to be burned. Oh no, here's the skin horse. Hurrah, thought the little rabbit, tomorrow we'll all go to the seaside. The little boy had often talked about the seaside, and he wanted very much to see the big waves coming in and the tiny crabs and the sandcastles. Just then, Nana caught sight of the old bunny. So here's Nana fixing all up the bed. How about this old bunny? She asked the doctor. Oh, that, said the doctor. Why, it's a mass of scarlet fever germs. Burn it at once. What? Nonsense. Get him a new one. He mustn't have that one anymore. And so the little rabbit was put into a sack with the old picture books and lots of rubbish, and carried out to the end of the garden behind the chicken house. That was a fine place to make a bonfire. All right, so we're going to stop there.